People often question me, who is on the picture if it's not Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati? The answer is, a photograph of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's head was used and later modified by computer technology into movement. For the sake of comparison, we will put the original photograph next to Bhaktisiddhanta's head in this so-called old film. Pay special attention to the places we've marked.
Strelicama smo označili mjesta na koje se treba obratiti posebna pozornost.
Pay attention to the white parts of his hair above his glasses, the parting in his hair, and especially to the shadow on his beard, which is the irrefutable proof that we are dealing with the same photograph. To extend our analysis, we can further modify the original picture on the small screen. Is it possible that the head on the original photograph and the head on this so-called original film are identical? Yes, it is possible if they were made on the same day, in which case there wouldn't be any change of neither his beard nor his hair. But the shadow on the beard also calls this assumption into question. People often ask a rather discomforting question, who made the film if it's not an original? Most probably the same person who made the universal teacher. Let's make some comparisons. This is a picture of the temple from the so-called original film on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Look at the tree. And this is the picture of the temple taken today from the first quarter of the film Universal Teacher. Look at the tree. On the big screen, we're looking at the temple from the so-called original film, supposedly made 90 years ago. And on the small screen, we are looking at the temple as it is today. How is it possible that the tree hasn't changed a bit in 90 years? Furthermore, the tree hasn't grown any higher in comparison to the temple. And more irrefutable evidence. Look at this opening between the branches, 90 years ago and today. How is it possible that it didn't change at all in 90 years? Further evidence that we are dealing with the same author is the shading around the edges of the screen. Throughout almost the whole film, the author uses this shading to make the Universal Teacher movie seem even more dramatic.
Da bi nam dočarao I dao dodatnu dramaturgiju starog filma. No nije li slučajno?
But we find the same shading on the so-called, I say the so-called, original sequence on Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. There is even more convincing evidence. At the very beginning, the author played a joke with special effects, not knowing that by doing so, he exposed himself as being a creator of this controversial film. Here are some comparisons with the so-called blemishes. Look at the white flash at the bottom of the screen. Is every similarity accidental? That's hardly the case in the next example. Look at the barely visible black line at the top of the screen. There it goes again. In the end, I can only say that the film The Universal Teacher is a great achievement. It is first class, the work of a real professional movie artist. Let's look at some film sequences to illustrate this point. For instance, these fluttering flags, which were sketched in to make the static dead picture look alive. Or these Englishmen who cheer to one Raj, who is only sketched as a silhouette. There are many such intricate details that require hard effort, therefore please value their work by buying their DVD.
Vrijednujete njihov trud na taj način što ćete kupiti ovaj DVD.
I would like to thank you for carefully watching this documentary, but I would also like to teach you something, and that is how to discover movie mistakes. You are looking at one right now. Can you find it? Being able to recognize movie mistakes can reveal some of the biggest delusions and frauds, such as the film about the moon landing. That film is full of mistakes. Have you discovered the mistake yet? My microphone doesn't have a cable. So, we've learned something. Since I'm actively involved in drama for over 20 years, mostly as a comedian, allow me to crack a joke about this controversial film. I trust it won't be an offense, since we have seen much evidence that this is not real Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura.
Right thing with your hands, lay down on the P's and sands, whatever else your faith demands. Hare, 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 bam bam be to Rajasthan, Nitai go, Radhe Sham, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare, 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 bow down.
Stop!
Stop! Oh, stop! You can't go on like this. Add the color. We said that the head goes this way, not that way.
I'm not a modified photograph. What's the matter with you?
Practice a little.
Yeah, right.
You can see how difficult it is to make such a movie. Surely the one we just saw was an original.